The Foundation of Democracy Elections in the U.S. written by Ken Burns, PBS. The United States is built on a powerful idea, democracy. This idea is not just a word, it is a living, breathing entity that has evolved over centuries. At the heart of this democracy are elections. They are the cornerstone of the nation, the mechanism through which the will of the people is expressed. Through elections, citizens choose their leaders, they voice their priorities, they shape the future of their country. Each vote cast is a testament to the power of individual choice and collective decision-making. The history of U.S. elections is a testament to the evolving nature of American democracy. It is a story of progress, setbacks, and the relentless pursuit of a more perfect union. From the very first presidential election in 1789 to the complex electoral processes of today, the journey has been marked by both progress and struggle. Each election has brought new challenges and opportunities for growth. It reflects the constant striving to live up to the ideals enshrined in the Constitution. The principles of liberty, equality, and justice have guided the evolution of the electoral process. Over the centuries, the right to vote has expanded. Initially limited to a select few, the franchise has gradually been extended to include a broader spectrum of the population. More Americans have gained a voice in their government. This expansion of voting rights has been a crucial step in making the democratic process more inclusive and representative. Technology has transformed how campaigns are run and how citizens engage in the political process. From the advent of radio and television to the rise of the internet and social media, each technological leap has reshaped the landscape of political communication. This essay delves into the captivating history of U.S. elections, exploring the key transformations that have shaped the nation's political landscape and highlighting the enduring importance of civic participation. It underscores the idea that democracy is not a static concept, but a dynamic process that requires constant vigilance and active engagement from its citizens. The dawn of a nation, the first presidential election. This moment marked the beginning of a new era, a time when the ideals of democracy and freedom were put to the test. In 1789, the newly formed United States held its first presidential election. This was not just an election, it was a defining moment that would shape the future of the nation. It was a pivotal moment in history. The Founding Fathers, having fought for independence, now faced the challenge of creating a government that truly represented the people. The young nation, having just won its independence, was embarking on an unprecedented experiment in self-governance. The principles of liberty and justice were at the forefront of this new beginning. George Washington, the revered hero of the Revolutionary War, was unanimously elected as the first president. His leadership and integrity were seen as essential to guiding the fledgling nation. The election process was much different then. There were no modern technologies, no televised debates, and no social media campaigns. There were no political parties. The concept of organized political factions had not yet taken root in the American political landscape. The Constitution did not originally include a process for nominating candidates. The framers of the Constitution left many details to be worked out by future generations. Instead, each elector cast 2 votes for president. This system was designed to ensure that the most qualified individuals would lead the nation. The candidate with the most votes became president, and the runner-up became vice president. This method, while innovative, would later prove to have its own set of challenges. The electorate was also very limited. The right to vote was not extended to all citizens, reflecting the inequalities of the time. Only white male property owners, a small fraction of the population, were eligible to vote. This exclusion highlighted the societal norms and prejudices that existed. This reflected the prevailing societal norms of the time, where property ownership was seen as a marker of civic responsibility and independence. The belief was that those who owned property had a vested interest in the stability and prosperity of the nation. The first presidential election set the stage for the development of the American democratic system. It was a foundational moment that would influence the structure and function of the government for years to come. It established the peaceful transfer of power through elections. This principle became a cornerstone of American democracy, ensuring that leadership could change hands without violence or upheaval. It also laid bare the limitations of the early republic, where suffrage was restricted and true representation remained elusive for many. The journey towards a more inclusive democracy would be long and arduous, but the first election was a crucial step in that direction. The rise of political parties, shaping the political landscape. As the United States matured, political parties emerged, fundamentally shaping the electoral landscape. The first party system arose from the differing visions of Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. Hamilton, a proponent of a strong central government, led the Federalist Party. Jefferson, advocating for states' rights and an agrarian society, spearheaded the Democratic Republican Party. These early parties offered competing visions for the future of the nation, sparking vigorous debates on economic policy, foreign relations, and the balance of power. The rise of political parties brought both benefits and challenges. Parties provided a framework for organizing political thought. They mobilized voters and simplified the electoral process by offering distinct policy platforms. They also introduced partisan divisions, which at times fueled political animosity and gridlock. The evolution of the two-party system, from its early beginnings to its dominance in modern American politics, highlights the enduring tension between unity and division, and the ongoing quest to find common ground in a diverse and ever-changing society. Expanding the franchise, the fight for voting rights. The history of U.S. elections is inextricably linked to the struggle for voting rights. From the earliest days of the Republic, the right to vote was a privilege reserved for a select few, primarily white, land-owning men. This exclusionary practice set the stage for centuries of activism and advocacy aimed at broadening the electorate. From the outset, suffrage was limited to a select few. The Founding Fathers, while advocating for a democratic system, did not extend this right to everyone. Women, people of color, and those without property were systematically excluded from the democratic process. Over time, however, movements for greater inclusion gradually chipped away at these restrictions, expanding the franchise to include previously marginalized groups. The fight for voting rights became a central theme in the broader struggle for civil rights and equality. The 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, prohibited the denial of voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. This landmark legislation was a direct response to the injustices faced by African Americans, particularly in the post-Civil War South. This amendment, passed in the aftermath of the Civil War, marked a significant step toward racial equality in voting. It was a beacon of hope for many, signaling a new era of inclusion and representation. However, its promise was met with fierce resistance in the South, where Jim Crow laws and discriminatory practices, such as literacy tests and poll taxes, effectively disenfranchised African Americans for decades. These measures were designed to circumvent the 15th Amendment and maintain the status quo of racial segregation and inequality. The 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, granted women the right to vote, a landmark victory for the suffrage movement, which had fought tirelessly for decades to secure this fundamental right. The women's suffrage movement was a powerful force, uniting women across the nation in a common cause. The expansion of voting rights throughout American history reflects the ongoing struggle to fulfill the promise of a truly representative democracy, where all citizens have an equal say in shaping their government. This journey has been marked by significant milestones, each representing a hard-fought victory for inclusion and equality. Today, the fight continues as new challenges emerge, reminding us that the quest for a fair and just electoral system is an ever-evolving endeavor. The Civil Rights Movement, a turning point for electoral equality. The civil rights movement of the mid-20th century marked a turning point in the fight for electoral equality. Led by courageous individuals like Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and Fannie Lou Hamer, the movement challenged the systemic disenfranchisement of African Americans in the South. Through peaceful protests, sit-ins, and voter registration drives, civil rights activists faced down violence and oppression to demand their rightful place at the ballot box. The movement culminated in the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discriminatory voting practices and provided federal oversight of elections in areas with a history of disenfranchisement. The Voting Rights Act had a profound impact on American democracy. It led to a surge in African American voter registration and participation in the South. It also served as a powerful symbol of the federal government's commitment to protecting voting rights for all citizens.